Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at my Linux Mint desktop here, and this is my Windows 11 desktop. And if you can tell, well, some similarity between the two is definitely the animated wallpaper. If you watched any of my videos, every single one of them has an animated wallpaper in the background, and I just love them. So if you want to find out how you can get animated wallpapers too, here's your video because we're going to be covering both Windows and Linux. And for Linux, we're going to cover both Gnome and KDE. So let's go ahead and get started on the Windows side. Okay, here we are in Windows 11, and we're going to take a look at our very first animated wallpaper program, and that is one called Wallpaper Engine, and that's what's running in the background right here. In fact, I'm going to drop down my little access bar here and pull up Wallpaper Engine, hit Change Wallpaper, and we get the interface. Wallpaper Engine is a Steam only, Windows only program, which has all sorts, literally, I think, over 10,000 user contributed wallpapers, which you can easily access all through the Steam store, basically, all through this interface, actually. And so that is one of its very best features. It's $4 currently on Steam, so the price is not super high, but it does have a few kind of limitations of being on Steam also. But let's go ahead and kind of take a look at the interface. These are all the wallpapers that I subscribe to, and if I move this to another computer and I load in my Steam account and sign in, it's going to download all of these back to this PC, so that's super nice. Also, too, you have this Discover tab, which is a kind of a curated list of the very best of the best, if you will, Wallpaper Engine. So you can find some really high quality wallpapers here. There is also the workshop, and the workshop is basically all these user contributed wallpapers, and you can sort by the most upvotes, most popular this year, this week, this month, the newest, things like that. And there's all these different styles of wallpapers too. I currently have it set to scene, video, and web, which means it supports. It's going to show me all of those different styles of wallpapers because Wallpaper Engine is very versatile. It basically is kind of a bit of a video player and a bit of a game engine, quite frankly, because you can take a still picture, you can add animation effects to it, like water rippling waves or falling leaves, or you could blur or add smoke, or you can also do spot animations just by animating little sections of it, basically, rather than having the whole thing in video. But it also supports just straight up, good old videos too. It also supports wallpapers of all types, including some not safe for work wallpapers. If you notice, I have my G rating turned on here to try to keep out of the dicey world of Wallpaper Engine's wallpapers because they can get quite extreme. So just be aware of that. Certainly not something you'd want a child playing around with. So that's kind of a downside there. The other big downside, actually, is the fact that it's on Steam, which gives you all these great advantages, and that's lovely. However, just like any Steam game, you can only run one copy of it at a time, which means if you want it running on two different computers at the same time, then you are kind of out of luck. Now, there are some kind of hacky ways around that, but basically, that's kind of the way the system is set up to work. Again, there are literally thousands and thousands. There's over 1,000 pages of these wallpapers right now. It does have a search feature. You can, filter. It also supports Android mobile as far as a mobile wallpaper, which is kind of nice. So, again, it's a commercial program. It's well supported. So there is certain really strong advantages to it, and it works really well, and I really like Wallpaper Engine. So highly recommended with an asterisk. Again, commercial, closed source, costs money, can only run on one PC at a time easily because of Steam. Those are kind of all the downsides. Now, one kind of trick that you can do with Wallpaper Engine, in fact, I'll go back over to my installed wallpapers over here, and let's scroll on down to our pumpkins. If I limit this to just video wallpapers, what I can do is I can find any of these video wallpapers and I can right click on it and I can just open and explore. And if it's a video wallpaper, you're going to actually find the video file sitting right there. Now the other one's scene and web and application. They're not a video file. They're being generated dynamically, almost like a video game. So you're not going to get a video file that you can just copy off. But if I wanted, this wolf video right here, which is already set up to loop and everything like that, works really well in Wallpaper Engine. Well, I could just copy that and put it over on Linux, for example, and use one of my Linux animated wallpaper tools, which all support video. So just kind of a quick tip there on how to kind of migrate between the two programs. Wallpaper Engine, very strong. I really like it. Almost all the backgrounds you've seen in my videos, because they're typically geared toward Windows, have it running. But, that's it's not it's certainly not free and open source, and it does have some limitations. One other thing I do want to show you about it is kind of the user interface over here. This is kind of a standard one for a video that doesn't have any sound in it. If you had a video that had sound, you'd have more options. However, for instance, this video, I'm sorry, it's not even a video. This background has all of these other options, and these have been added by the person who created it. So you can create your own wallpapers for Wallpaper Engine. It has its own interface for doing that. There's tutorials online, stuff like that. You can shows you how to set up all these different things. So again, you can see how you're controlling the particles, and oftentimes you can turn on and off clocks, and set the fonts to things and stuff like that. So again, super flexible, super customizable, depending on how the wallpaper was created. But that's Wallpaper Engine. Now let's take a look at another Windows animated wallpaper program, and this one is free and open source, and it's called Lively Wallpaper. In fact, I have an icon for it right here on the desktop. However, I am also running it right now. So if I right click on this icon and hit Open Lively, it's going to open up the user interface. Now, the Lively program is a little bit like Wallpaper Engine in that it has its own way of building wallpapers that can be interactive. They're basically kind of a animated web site, effectively being shown on your desktop. For example, this is not a video. This is actually interactive. I can interact with this periodic table of elements. However, I can also just load a video in and play that, and this is just a straight up animated video playing in the background. So this is the library, which is just a list of all the ones that you have loaded currently. They have a coming soon gallery with nothing in it, but this is kind of be where the, you would see stock wallpapers created by other users. So that would be shown here. Of course, they got an update button and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and hit the plus button here. And here's where you can add a wallpaper. You can drag and drop a video in here. You can choose a file, right? And so you can select a video right there. You can also enter the URL of a website or a YouTube video. And you can even create a dynamic wallpaper, and they even have an example here of creating that. And that's kind of like that periodic table of elements where you actually create basically kind of like an animated web page that runs in the background. So it could do more than just run videos, for example. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the user interface here. You can set the theme to the program, help it about. They do have a Patreon, and that's how they're mostly supported. Of course, it is an open source and free program. And here is the settings. And, you got things like start with Windows, show in the system tray, which is always really handy. Stuff like that. You can set themes. You can set the volume level here. The performance, you always would typically set these so whenever you have a program that is running full screen, that it pauses. And that's exactly what we have right now. So application full screen, pause. When the application is focused, it keeps on running. whether you're on battery or not, stuff like that, whether it runs in a remote desktop session, things like that here. You also have a few options here for the different wallpapers, like mouse interaction, which video player to use, and stuff like that, which can impact performance, or if one doesn't work well for you, you can switch it out. And then over here we have the system, which is just you can manage like the taskbar theme and stuff like that to make a few changes there. Not as comprehensive as as like Wallpaper Engine, but it is very similar overall to Wallpaper Engine in kind of the concept. So a really strong contender here. So if you're looking for something that's free and open source and a project that needs even more support, Lively Wallpaper. And I'll have the link down in the description below to the GitHub page where you can actually download it and run it. I believe they also offer it through the Microsoft Store, or you can just download the Windows installer directly. So it's very flexible on that. Anyway, so that is Lively Wallpaper, the other really strong contender for animated wallpapers in Windows. So now let's take a look at the Linux side of things, particularly those with GNOME desktops. Here I'm running the latest version of Linux Mint. I've also tested this with the latest version of Zorin OS, and it works well on both of those. And the program we're using here to animate the background is free and open source, and it is called Hidamari, I don't know. Anyway, it's Japanese, means sunny spot. I'm going to call it Hidamari. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And it is basically a Python program that uses a few of the utilities to run a video in the desktop layer. And it seems to work pretty well with a couple of limitations here. So it's distributed as a Flatpak, by the way. So you just download and install a Flatpak, and if your distro is not set up to run Flatpaks, then you need to adjust that as necessary. But that's basically the way you get it installed. So let's go ahead and kind of take a look at the user interface and some of the limitations here. If you notice over here, I have some desktop widgets going, and that works great. However, if you notice, I don't have any like folders or icons, and that's because I can't seem to get them to reliably show up. It oftentimes will just cover them up. Now in Zorin OS, it seems to do better about that. I don't know why, but here on Linux Mint, you can't really use icons. Now, I have moved away from using icons and folders on the desktop quite a bit to kind of save on real estate, basically. And I pretty much drive everything from my toolbar down here at the bottom. So you notice it's got a lot of stuff going on. And that's because it's basically kind of replaced that system for me anyway. So for me, it's not a big deal, but could be a deal breaker for you. So to access the user interface for the program, what you could do is move anywhere over here on the playing video, right click and show Hidamari here, and it's going to pop up. And if you notice, I have a whole bunch of videos loaded in here, and if you wanted to pick a different one, you literally just pick that video and hit apply. It's a really nice graphical user interface. So where are these videos stored? Well, right here, if you click this folder icon, it's going to pop up the folder that has been configured for it to store its videos, and this is kind of the default one that it comes with. You can move it, I think, if you need to, but I didn't. And yeah, I just loaded in a whole bunch of looping videos that are great for backgrounds. And if you want to know where to get some of those, please jump to the section about resources and finding videos for your animated wallpapers, because I have a few options down there listed. So we'll go ahead and cover that in another section. So let's go ahead and close this down here. And besides this very basic interface here, we also have this little hamburger menu here. And if we drop that down, here's two settings that I recommend that you pick. One is auto start after login, and that just makes it start up automatically whenever you log in, which is really nice because then your desktop is animated and you are good to go. Also to detect maximize windows. That's really important because basically the program's going to keep running and playing a video in the background, which does take up some resources, although you're going to find it really doesn't take up that many because everything's kind of hardware accelerated and these videos are pretty small. But if you have that checked, what it's going to do is going to suspend Hidamari whenever a window goes full screen. So that's going to basically stop its, at least GPU and CPU resource utilization. It still has the video loaded in memory, however, which is a reason why you probably wouldn't like want to put a giant movie or something in there. It's going to have to load that into video, load that video into memory, and that's going to take up a ton of RAM. So let's go ahead and kind of demonstrate that for you. We also have volume control. And by the way, you can open up the configuration file and manually make changes if you want to make changes directly to the XML file that controls this program. But let's just kind of go ahead and close this for now. And let's open up our web browser again. And if you notice that the video is still playing in the background, of course, still using resources. But let's pop up the system monitor here. And I've kind of done a search for it here. And if you notice, the player is really not using, at least on the CPU side, very much CPU power at all. Now, I have a 68,000H in here, an AMD 68,000H. And it's a little bit older, but it's a fairly powerful processor. So I've got tons of threads to throw at things, and as you can tell, that's pretty minuscule usage right there. I could easily have another widget or something running. In fact, I think the system monitor actually uses more resources than my animated wallpaper. But let's go ahead and maximize the web browser window, and let's go back to the system monitor. And now if you take a look, it's pretty much fallen to 0. Just a little tiny tick every once in a while to check to see if the window's still maximized or not. So that's basically it. So it really doesn't use that much resources on a modern PC, which is super nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few other options here. I'm going to minimize that. Let's right click. Let's show the interface again. Now, besides local video, which is the one I mostly use, there is also streaming, and it's using a Linux utility that basically can stream from a large variety of websites, streaming services. And if you want to find out all the details, you can click on this and it'll tell you what sites are supported. But obviously YouTube is one of those, and so you can actually just paste in the URL of a YouTube video and it will actually start playing in the background here. The other one here is you can use WebGL pages, either ones that you've downloaded or created yourself, or you can find them on the web. And in fact, they have an example site right here, which is pretty cool. And I am going to butcher the name of that, but it's basically altered QUALIA. And I'm going to try to pronounce that. But of course, the link will be in the description down below, as with every other product mentioned here, program. And for instance, if we find one that we like this morphine with moving eyes here, classical painting one, we can just highlight the URL, paste that in, minimize this, paste it in here, hit the little go button here, and bing, bang, boom, we got the same thing on our desktop. So that's the end of the way you can use the program. If you don't want this anymore, you can, of course, right-click. You can have a few other options here. Of course, toggle, mute the audio. That's super lucky. If you are super handy. If you just want a random one, you can hit I'm feeling lucky, and it's just going to pop up the various video ones that are out there. And as you can see, I've got quite a few. And of course, if you want to, you can just quit the program, which is actually just going to close down to the actual desktop, which I just keep a default black desktop out there. And of course, if you want to rerun it, it's no big deal. Let's come up here and run it again. And there we go. We're back operational. So that's it. This is my recommended one for the GNOME desktop. So let's take a look at my recommendation for KDE. And here we are on Manjaro running KDE. Now, I've tried this on a couple of different distros, particularly Manjaro and with Fedora KDE. And I really had a ton of problems with Fedora, I must say. But Manjaro works great. And so this is definitely worth a try. And it's kind of the official KDE way of doing an animated wallpaper. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to right-click, go to Desktops and Wallpaper, and if you haven't loaded it already, we're going to be looking for the Smart Video Wallpaper Reborn, and we would hit Get New Plugin and search for it right here. In fact, right there it is. So we'll go ahead and close that down. And it's basically has a very simple interface. I'm going to expand this out just a little bit so you can see all the different options. There we go. At least you can see most of them. And what you do is you can, like, for instance, show videos. And here I have the deer video loaded in. You can hit add new videos and add additional ones. Of course, you can control the cropping, the playback speed, whether you mute the audio or not. You can load in multiple videos and it'll kind of crossfade and switch from one to the next as one finishes playing. So in other words, it wouldn't loop, or it would loop through the whole list, I guess, basically. You can also set like a blur radius, which kind of can blur the video around like desktops and like programs have popped up over the desktop. So that's kind of cool. I really don't use any of these, but they are down here. A screen lock pauses the video. That's a good one to have on, of course. Pause the video for maximize or full screen window. You can, set blur if you want to also for that. So I would definitely recommend you set these options in order to pause the video in the background. The nice thing about it is this is a kind of an officially supported KDE plugin. It's in the standard KDE plugin store. And as you can see, it works for desktop widgets and also for folders and icons, which is super nice. So if you're running KDE, you can run Hidamari, by the way, but it has a tendency to cover up everything, both widgets and desktop icons, which makes it kind of the not so great solution since you've already got something rocking and rolling in the KDE plugin store already. So I did notice that this program uses a little bit more resources, while Hidamari may use like 2 or 3%. I find this one uses closer to 4 or 5%, which is a little bit of a knock, but obviously it works great on the distros that support it. So there you go. That's my recommendation for KDE desktops. And that's it. We've covered finding software for Windows and for Linux, for Gnome and KDE, and a bunch of resources to find free video looping wallpapers out there so you can put in your backgrounds, kind of like this one right here. So I certainly hope you enjoyed the video. I know a lot of people have been asking in the comments about, hey, where'd you get that wallpaper, whatever. Well, this is the comprehensive guide to how you find all that stuff and how you can have animated wallpapers too. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. If you really like the content, then hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you next time.